Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Joining us right now off the floor of the House, Representative Becca Balint, a Democrat representing the entire state of Vermont, the first woman and first openly LGBTQ person to represent her home state, serves on the House Judiciary Committee and the Budget Committee. Representative Balint, how are you? Nice to see you.
I'm doing well, Dean. It's always great to chat with you. And I love that your shirt is matching the poinsettia in the background.
I change the shirt depending on the flowers. That's how I do it.
That's
People can't
great.
see. This
It's
is just
bringing
for
me
us.
joy, Dean. It's bringing me
But
joy.
you're so observant and notice that other people have not noticed it today because I interviewed some other people. So thank you,
Okay.
Representative, for being that observant.
You're
So
welcome.
you're on the Budget Committee, and
Mhm.
I saw Speaker Johnson has got some kind of 1,500-page bill to keep the
Yeah.
government open for 3 months,
Yes.
and he's getting attacked by the right. So what's going? Elon Musk is saying he's going to primary
Yeah.
anyone who votes for this. That's he
Yeah.
literally
Yeah. Yeah.
posting that.
I,
So what can you tell us?
I'm so glad that you asked about this. I was literally moments ago in an elevator with some Republican members who are fuming about the fact that Musk is inserting himself into this conversation and that the threats over Twitter, oh, I'm sorry, X, the
Right.
threats over X, to primary them, to come after them, so privately at least they've had it. They've had it with people like Musk who think that they have the right to insert themselves into a process of elected officials. We've all been elected to represent our constituents, to try to represent them. He is not elected. I just want to remind everybody of that. He may be a very wealthy person, but he's been elected to nothing. And so there is a continuing resolution. I want to also remind folks, we had months to deal with this. Okay. We had months. We knew it was coming up against the holiday break. And of course, it's always at the 11th hour. And Johnson released it yesterday, his most extreme right flank, which has grown larger in the last few cycles.
Mhm.
They are, I think, some of them are absolutists and don't want to spend any money except if it's on a tax cut.
Right.
But the rest of them, I think many of them are afraid of what will happen if they aren't seen as uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Appropriately ass kissy. Can I say that? Do you have to bleep
Sure.
that out?
No,
Okay.
it's SiriusXM. You can curse all you want. That's
Oh,
FCC can't
right.
touch
If I
us.
had known, okay.
Brendan Carr
Uh-oh,
is
my
coming
team
in
is
and he
like,
can't come
uh-oh.
after us. Not that we know of, but maybe they'll figure out a way to come after us.
Yeah. So look, we'll get it done. We'll get it done. But this is the same nonsense that we were dealing with the last 2 years, where we would try to do our work together. What most Americans want us to do is work in a bipartisan manner. And then, over the last 2 years, we were dealing with Trump doing this, you
Right.
know, just tweeting about things he knew nothing about. Because remember, he served for 4 years, but still doesn't know how government actually works and how you get a bill passed into law. And so there's going to be more of this. So if Republicans think they can outrun this, no, they have to take a stand. They have to not bow down to folks like Elon Musk
Mhm.
and others. And that is the only way to break this. That's the only way.
Is there any chance, from what you heard from other Republicans, you don't have to name them,
Yeah, yeah.
that a backlash to Elon Musk could grow to the point where there could be bipartisan legislation dealing with big money in politics? And now I know the Supreme Court probably strike it down, but
Yeah,
is there a chance at least to pass it, to throw the gauntlet down in the Supreme Court?
I think there are opportunities, Dean. I really do, especially when you see just like the absolute rage that we see about the economic disparity in this country, the fact that corporations made so much money off of the pandemic and the supply chain issues, and those prices still haven't come down. And you have Trump saying, "Oh, I'm going to lower grocery prices," and then before he's even taken office, oh, never mind, scratch that.
It's too hard.
Too hard, too hard. Yes. And so I do think there's an opportunity on antitrust in particular. Unfortunately, we've lost some of our partners in judiciary, like Ken Buck, who were really
Mhm.
interested in doing work like that. But I'm not giving up hope on that, because I know that's what most Americans want. They do not feel like the playing field is fair.
I agree with you. And we've talked about this before, that what we're living through is reminiscent of the Gilded Age.
Absolutely.
And what the backlash from that ushered in the progressive era
That's
and
right.
legislation to address these kind of issues. And then sort of a lull, and then the New Deal picked up there again. So I'm really hoping we get to that point. I think Elon Musk his arrogance and hubris might help become the poster boy for even some Republicans going, this is just too much. I mean, really, because what if Elon Musk
Exactly.
becomes a Democrat tomorrow and then gives $250 million to a Democratic candidate? We don't want
Exactly.
that. That should not be
Right.
allowed. It should not be,
Yes.
we should all have the same number across the
Yes.
nation, what you can put in to any campaign. That's it. That's how it works.
Absolutely. And Dean, I just have to say it absolutely chaps my ass that this is a guy who was working illegally in this country. He came here on a student visa. He
Yep.
essentially is, what he rails against all the time. He is that. He is that. And then we're taking marching orders from him. It's absurd. It's
I
absurd.
agree. And I'm talking with Representative Becca Balint. Another thing connected to the wealth and the billionaire brigade that Donald Trump is bringing with him and wants to reward is privatizing the post office.
Yeah.
And he said it again earlier this week. And I don't know if he's serious or not. We don't know. But I know there are some Republicans that want to do that. You live in Vermont. There's rural areas. Can you share what would actually happen if the post office got privatized?
Yeah, it would be really devastating. Already, we are dealing with delivery problems. I literally got a text earlier this week from a friend saying, "Hey, I just want you to know there are some seniors in my community at this point who are only getting their mail 3 times a week. This
Oh,
impacts their ability to get prescription drugs. Obviously, that's a big one. A lot of seniors get their prescription drugs via mail. Lots of cottage industries in Vermont on these dirt roads. People are able to make extra income by using the postal service. So it impacts our economy. It impacts our daily lives. And I was meeting with my senators 2 weeks ago, and one of the things that came up was the concern that we have that they're going to move all of the sorting facilities for mail out of Vermont entirely. So that if you want to mail a letter in Brattleboro to go to the next town over in Little Guilford, Vermont, it's going to go all the way down to New Haven, Connecticut and back up again. And so when you talk
wow.
about efficiencies, there's nothing efficient about that. So I'm very, very concerned about this. And this is another issue that I think can be a bipartisan issue. And when I first came in and I was on oversight initially, I did have a meeting with Representative Comer, who's the chair of oversight, and he represents a more rural district, as well. And we were able to have a hearing and oversight on the Postal Service. I know it resonates with rural communities across the country. And I think this is not a place where we can make a decision not to invest because it hurts rural communities.
And
Absolutely.
And the Republicans represent more rural communities than Democrats. We tend to represent
That's right.
more of the urban areas. And they have and what happens with our post office, they have a mandate by law, it's my understanding. It's called universal delivery. There's a term I'm looking for it where universal service obligation that
That's
they
right.
have to, even if it's going to lose money,
That's
if
right.
there's a house, they have to go deliver it because it's the United States Post Office,
That's
which
right.
began before our nation began with Ben Franklin. Like, I mean, so it predates even our nation. The idea was to connect this disparate group of people into a nation,
Exactly.
and the post
And
office was part of that. So if you privatize it, if it's a business for profit, they're not going to go up a
no,
mountain and deliver a letter because it's going to lose money. Like, you got to come down or you're not getting your letters. That's the
that's
real world.
exactly
And it's
right.
going to be Republican districts that get hurt the most by this.
Yes, in the aggregate, absolutely. And what does it mean when there's, bad weather? You decide, well, we're gonna cost cutting measure. We're not investing in snow tires for our for our trucks. Sorry, from October to May, no mail in Vermont.
Oh my, well, I'm from Jersey. We got a lot of drones we can lend you. So maybe you can have some of our drones because they're apparently filling the sky. There's
I know.
drones there.
Why are they all in New Jersey, Dean?
It's because I don't know why. Well, I mean, I know why. I think because they're coming in from over the ocean. You know what else is coming from over the ocean? The planes coming to land at Newark. That's the
Yes.
route. They come up Philadelphia corridor right up there. And there's a whole bunch of planes lined up at night. You can always see it. So now they've gone from, oh, look, it's planes to there's probably a few drones, but everything else in the sky you
Got
can't
it.
see is a plane. I
Like,
will say it was kind of weird that in New Jersey, the state police were pursuing a drone that was apparently 6 feet big, and the drone shut their lights off, and then they lost it. I'm like, that's the technology we have in the New Jersey State Police. You shut your lights off, and we lose the bad guys. I'm like, boy.
I
So
know, and I think it was Representative Van Drew from New Jersey, and he was like, it's definitely from Iran. And it's like, do you have any evidence? I have a feeling that it could be, and we should shoot it down. It's like, come on, people. Come on.
he used to be a Democrat. I
I
mean, he's in the
know.
right party. Like he never
I
would have fit with
know.
us. I'm like,
I
what
think
is
he had a
wrong
little
with you?
too much laughing gas.
And he's from down southern Jersey, which has
Yeah.
become redder and redder over time. Chatting with Representative Becca Balint. I wanted to get your reaction. A lot of ink has been spilled about the intra-party issues about
Mm,
who's going to be ranking minority leader. And the big one was AOC, of course, with Congressman
yeah.
Jerry Connolly. But can you explain to people in the real world, how significant is it? It's not that AOC can't go, like I was rooting for AOC, but I have nothing against Jerry Connolly. I mean, he's been
Right.
around a long time. And the AOC, and I'm not defending as much as trying to give it context. AOC can go on TV any day she wants. She's AOC. But
Yes.
by being ranking minority leader,
Yeah.
what would have that have meant, though?
Well, I know from hearing from a lot of folks about this race that it really captured the imagination of so many younger people who have become disaffected with politics
Hmm.
and really turned off by a really outdated system of seniority. That if you wait it out long enough, that you will get some power in this building. And I understand many employment situations have seniority systems. The problem is not everybody who has leadership ability is going to be in Congress for 20 or 30 years,
Right.
right? I mean,
Hmm.
and so we want to take full advantage of those people and their talents while they're here, whether they have been here for 20 years or not. And there's an argument to be made that like it's a healthy thing to have some consistent churn of people coming in, right? So that you're
Hmm.
not only looking at an issue in a particular way. We need young voters. We need to bring Latino voters back in. We need a multi-racial coalition of workers in our party. And she was an incredible surrogate for the Harris Walz campaign. I think by one count, she did more events as an individual person than any other member of Congress on
Wow.
behalf of Kamala Harris. She raised a ton of money for not just for Harris Walz, but also for other members. And more importantly, as you said, there is no other member of Congress that has the star power that she has, or more importantly, has the communication skills that she has. She's an excellent communicator.
Yep.
And so the members of the committee also overwhelmingly wanted Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to be their ranking
Oh,
member.
they did.
Yes,
You're not on that. You used to be on that committee. You're
I
on
used to be on that
judiciary.
committee, so I know a lot of the
Right.
people there.
Right.
And they felt like what was needed in this moment was the
Hmm.
talent and the expertise that she has in both tactics and strategy and bringing the group together to work in harmony, not just against the nonsense that is in that committee from Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and others, but also to work in coordination with the Judiciary Committee. And AOC was essentially mentored by Jamie Raskin. She was his deputy on oversight. And the sense was she had the entire package that we needed and also was a face for people outside of DC to feel like we understand the
Hmm.
electorate wants us in some ways to be disruptors, positive disruptors, not
Hmm.
people who lie and cheat and steal and, spread misinformation,
Right.
disinformation, but, a face that is showing from the moment that she appears in committee, we are fighting for you. We are fighting this nonsense that Elon Musk, the corporate entities that want to screw you over. And again, no slight to Jerry Connolly. He's a great legislator. I know him. But in this moment, I think it matters that the committee really wanted her leadership. And seniority seemed to win the day.
That's
Now,
interesting.
now,
Hmm.
in the days since, so that was 24 hours ago, I was pretty hot about it yesterday just because I feel like we missed a moment. But there are a lot of people within the caucus who truly understand that whatever um, issues people might have had with her style in the past, because there are, let's be clear, there's been tension between the progressive caucus and others within the larger caucus, that she has actually been an incredible team player in the last term. And that counts, right? That we all have to be allowed to grow and change the way that we use our platform strategically and tactically. And I was just a little frustrated feeling like people did not give her the grace to admit, I want to go in a little bit different direction. And I was talking on the floor with some other members of Congress and saying, oftentimes in politics, men are given that kind of grace, but women are not. And so I think that was part of it. But certainly there's no denying her leadership. And I think for her, it's just a matter of, where do I want to put my energy? Where can I be more effective? And what she said to me last night is, we need to do everything we can to get back the gavels, because we have work we need to do to make this economy more fair, to protect reproductive rights. Like, the mission is to flip the House. That's it. And so whatever we need to do collectively and individually to do that, she's ready to do it. But yeah, that was a hard loss for me. I was on her whip team, and
Oh, you were?
I worked really hard.
Well, please put in a word for us, because we'd love to have her on the show too.
Okay, I will.
We know each other through mutual friends and stuff like that, and we've tried, but it's like a gauntlet, her team. But the point is, she can still amplify the issues. But there's another part. I mean, yesterday on Kurt Bardella, and he used to be on MS all the time. He's a News Nation contributor, but he used to be a Republican. He was a staffer. He was the press secretary to the House Oversight Committee when under Obama, and they picked Darrell Issa to be the ranking member, and they jumped over 5 people because at the time he was much younger. He was really good on TV, much better than the rest. And he said, we're going to win the House back from this committee. We're going to,
Exactly.
as ranking minority member, I'm going to take the
Right.
fight out and message. And he did. And he has, Fox News. He got famous on Fox News,
Yes.
going on all the time. And that's why Kurt, who's now a Democrat, said, this is such a mistake, because that committee can be used, your minority,
Yes.
as a leader to go on even more. But at the same time, I did say, she's known. Darrell wasn't known. She can go on she can still do the same exact thing.
Exactly.
She can go
Oh,
on MS
absolutely.
any night. Although I would say MS, and it's no slight on MS. I like MS, but Democrats. I think the lesson from this is, you got to go on places like the Dean Obeidallah show. Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
important. But
Yeah.
Podcasts and
Definitely.
YouTube shows that have a big following of people on our side and even people outside of our side. Fox News, that's up to people to go on or not. I don't really know if you're going to change anyone's mind, but more the kind of the podcasts and stuff that might not be as political. That
Yes.
might be like about an issue, and they're like, I'm going to go on and
Absolutely.
talk on the Conans or something like that, whatever it might be. And so I wanted to shift gears here. You were posted about President Biden can publish the Equal Rights Amendment with just a
Yeah.
signature, and a lot of people have been talking about this underneath the surface. What can
Yeah.
you share about this?
So enough states have ratified it at this point that really what it takes is for the president to direct the archivist essentially to publish it. And so I was talking with a member on the floor just an hour ago about how, a few days ago, it seemed like we had pretty much a glide path to getting it published. And there seems to be some kind of tension now between the archivist and the White House. And you know what? He's the president.
Right, you're the archivist.
You're the archivist.
Go do the Dewey Decimal System. What are you kidding me? Like, you do
Yeah,
you organize the
exactly.
magazines.
So I haven't had a chance to talk with my team yet about this, but this is an instance, and I think you and I have talked about this before. When Democrats have our power, we need to use it. Use it for good, but use it.
Right.
And here's a perfect example that, there is, of course, there's important policy, protocol, procedure, all of these things. But when you have more than enough states, or enough states, I should say, ratifying this amendment, which frankly it's shocking that we don't have it yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that it's going to be held up by essentially an unelected person. So I got to find out more. But this is something that is very important to many of us in Congress, many women who have been fighting for this for so long, Dean, so long. And I do feel like the president should deal with this
Yeah.
before he leaves office.
The idea that there are people against equal rights for women says so much in our, and they're openly against equal rights for women
Oh,
now. I
yes.
mean, it's kind of changed. The pendulum has gone from, how could you be against it to, oh, damn feminists. On my show last week, I went through that what we didn't talk about in this election, Vice President Harris, the role sexism played, but it
Yes.
was just a manifestation of our society. Of the Fortune
Yes.
500 companies, only 10% are headed by women. Of the
Yes.
S&P 500, only 8% are headed by women.
Yes.
It's not. And there are
Yeah.
polls which show that men 2 to 1 want a male boss over a female boss. There's those subtle things that you can also find as data
Yes.
points where you're like, oh, and there was a poll done just in October that got so little press that only about 75% of Americans think women could lead as president the same way a man can. So when you're
Yeah.
taking 25% of the electorate out,
Yes.
you've added so much more difficulty for Harris. And no one in
Absolutely.
the corporate media, they went about everything. She didn't go on Joe Rogan. That's why she lost. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of reasons. I will say there's a lot of reasons.
A
But
lot of reasons.
sexism is a role.
It's
Racism plays a
baked
role, but I think
in.
sexism is even
Totally.
bigger.
It's baked in and no one wants to talk about it, and that is, I applaud you for bringing it up because it's something that, I have been talking about since the day after the election. It's like, yes, there is part of this that is about the economic disparity. There's part of it about pocketbook issues. And also, it was a very narrow victory, right?
Yeah,
So we are a divided nation, but there are people we didn't turn out to vote who usually turn out to vote. And yes, you know what? Part of that is sexism. And if you deny it, you're just not being honest. You're not being honest even about the conversations that you're part of, right?
I agree. And last thing, you're going to have the Democrats are now the break is going to come back in January. New Congress starts. One of the things I'll share from listeners is that, and don't take this. This is not you personally.
No,
The
no.
idea of democratic leadership and one voice taking the fight to Trump. Instead, we're seeing article after article about some Democrats, and it's almost the same ones. Let's find common ground with Trump. You told us he was a fascist a month ago who's going to end our democracy, and now you're like, let's find common ground with him. I'm like, what did you tell
Oh,
us? You can't do
100%.
both.
100%,
So
Dean.
we need the
I
Democrats to stick with something, and we want them to lead the fight against Trump. I mean, we
Yeah.
need Democrats to do that. The leadership, the grassroots is ready to fight. I can tell you that.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh. When I saw the pictures of President Biden in the Oval Office with a photo shoot with Trump a few weeks back, I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What you need to do is have a peaceful transfer of power.
Right.
That is your obligation. You have to make sure that you are working with his team so that we have a peaceful transfer of power. We have all of the agency heads, people are communicating. You do not need the obligatory, like sitting in the Oval Office, normalizing this person
Right.
who has no seeming responsibility that he feels to the Constitution or the rule of law. And so frankly, I was very, very angry about that because you're right. You can't say this person has fascist tendencies. This person is going to be bad for the country and then expect people to just like switch. Well, we're all good now. Like, no. So what I keep telling my constituents is, look, I will never, ever compromise on the rule of law, on the
Mhm.
Constitution, on making sure that laws and regulations are followed and pushing back against, regulations that upend norms. And behind the scenes with my members in Congress, if there's just back to what we were talking about, if there's work that I can do with a Republican member to save the post office, I'm going to do that. But
Sure.
I am not going to do anything to normalize this behavior from the top. And like people are talking about Kennedy as if he's a legitimate like cabinet appointee. Musk doesn't even have a real job. You got Vivek, Vivek and Elon are going to like take each other down because they have competing interests. They all want to be top dog. Trump wants to be top. Like, it's going to be a madhouse. And we cannot continue to act like, nothing to see here. We're all just going to work together in a bipartisan manner. No, we're going to have hard fights because they are trying to destroy the government from the inside. That is the memo. That is the memo.
Absolutely.
And so
Everything.
yeah.
EPA, Department of Education, you go down the whole list, that's their goal. And then to weaponize the other parts with Kash Patel and Pam Bondi
Oh my
and
gosh.
DOJ. I mean, Kash Patel openly talking about going after the media, and then Donald
Yeah.
Trump now going after media outlets
Yes.
and bragging about it. And he has unlimited funds because of the RNC and also because of Elon Musk. He can
Yeah.
actually hurt some of these companies that, so, well,
Yeah.
Representative,
We out
it's
of
always great.
time.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask, are we out of time? Because I want to talk about ABC and I want to talk about Laura Trump. I got everything I want to
If
talk
you
about.
want about ABC for a minute, we'll go and then we're gonna. So it's fine. What's your reaction to ABC?
What a capitulation.
Yeah,
What a capitulation. Fight it. Fight it. Again, this cowardice in the face of this out of control bully. It just emboldens them. And we all suffer for it.
I, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Timothy Snyder's book that everyone now cites all the time on tyranny. You can't obey in advance.
That's right.
And in my article today for my Substack, I was praising Judge Marchand, who did not vacate the convictions
That's
of
right.
Donald Trump, who could have. But in Timothy Snyder in his book, his last line is, "If none of us prepare to die for freedom, then all of us will die under tyranny." And we
Yes.
hope it doesn't come to that, but sometimes you have to suffer a little bit. There's a little pain. You're going to get ridiculed. It might cost you some money, but you got to stand up to this guy because, he's happy when everyone's bending a knee. Then Trump gets mad when he doesn't get what he wants. So, all right, I'm
Yeah.
going to let you go. It's great chatting with you. Happy
Always love
holidays to
talking
you
to
and
you.
your
You
family,
too.
and
You
look forward
too.
to chatting with you in the new year.
Okay. Happy New
Take
Year.
care.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.